Thank you, Joan, and thank you, Kathy, for that wonderful presentation. That was very impressive, not only for the presentation, but the work it represents. Nancy, if you'd start the PowerPoint, one of the really amazing things that happened 15 years ago when the roots of our organization began by some very smart people from the UU Church of the Restoration. They realized that if our faith was to have a voice in Harrisburg, we needed to have a lobbying organization. And they formed what is now UUJusticePA, and they actually created two organizations. One, a 501c3, which is our UUJusticePA Education Fund, which was really responsible for all the nonpartisan work that Kathy and the other ministerial leaders guided in the last election. But we also have a 501c4, which is what the UU Justice Pennsylvania actually is. And it is allowed to endorse candidates and lobby elected officials. And in this case, it is work that is done by individuals. It's not done by congregations. So for this election, the partisan effort, of which I was the coordinator, had 5 primary goals. And as you know, the results of the election were mixed. But our first goal, there were 4 UUs in Pennsylvania who were willing to run for the Pennsylvania legislature. And the good news is that Diane Herron of the Unitarian Congregation of Westchester won a seat. And she is the first person to serve in the Pennsylvania legislature for as long as I know, and maybe the only one. 3 UUs offered to serve: Shauna Danielson from the UU Church of Cumberland Valley, Tara Zarinsky from the UU Church of the Larger Fellowship, and Tara was also affiliated with the UU Church of Lehigh Valley. She lost, along with Peter Buck from the UU Fellowship of Center County, but they ran, they showed us how to do it, and they inspired us, much as Steve Snell from the UU Congregation of York and Jennifer Luger from the Unitarian Society of Germantown showed us in previous elections. But the net result of our goal is we now have a UU in the Pennsylvania House of Representatives. Our second goal was to flip the Pennsylvania House of Representatives. If we could flip 9 Republican seats while retaining all the Democratic seats, the Democrats would control the Pennsylvania House of Representatives. The net results were a bit disappointing. We did flip 1 Republican seat, but we lost 3 Democratic seats. So the net result is that the new incoming Pennsylvania House of Representatives will have 91 Democrats and 112 Republicans. So the difference is 21. In the previous session, it was 17. But in the session before that, the difference was 41. So it's a bit of a setback, but we have a vision for 2022. Our third goal was to flip the Pennsylvania Senate. Oops, yeah. And it would require, there are 50 senators in the Pennsylvania Senate. If we could flip 4 Republican seats while retaining all Democratic seats, because Fetterman is the lieutenant governor, we would have a tiebreaker with him. The results were we did flip 1 Republican seat. John Kane won his seat, but we lost 2 incumbent Democrats. So the net result is we will have a Pennsylvania Senate of 20 Democrats, 30 Republicans. The previous session was 21 Democrats and 29 Republicans. The Republicans include Senator John Udicek, who is an independent, but who caucuses with the Republicans. Our fourth goal was to affect the US House of Representatives. Pennsylvania has 18 seats in the US House of Representatives. It was 9 Democrats and 9 Republicans after the League of Women Voters sued to correct some of the nasty gerrymandering. But the goal was to get to 12 Democrats and 6 Republicans. The result was actually all 18 members of the incumbent members of the House of Representatives ran for re-election, and all were re-elected. So our delegation has not changed. The Democrats right now control the House of Representatives. Not all the races have been have been determined, but it appears that the Democrats will have a plus 19 members of the House. Our fifth goal was to elect a different president. And it's with great pleasure that I can say to the work of UU the Vote partisan work and nonpartisan work, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin reversed their positions from 2016. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris were elected. And that's the good news. So I encourage people to recruit folks to run for office. I was thrilled to see in that last last exercise that someone is interested in running. Tara Zarinsky, who serves on the Northampton County Council, is willing to run again for her district. So I would encourage all to recruit people and to serve in other public policy making roles, boards of election, different boards, authorities, and commissions that county or municipal government may have. So that's the end of my report. If anybody has any questions, please put them in the chat. Joan?
Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Richard.